Hi, everybody. Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We've been talking each week how crowded and loud it is out in the digital marketing world. Oak City Tech can help you with a number of things. First thing we always tell you about is have a good website. If you meet someone, first place they're going to go to see if you are legit is to your website. So you want one that answers their questions. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You don't need to spend a ton of money. You just want something there that is going to answer their questions and make them want to contact you again. So you just want a professional website set up, and the folks at Oak City Tech can help. Go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them we said hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we bring you a small business success story from Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 33 chapters and almost 600 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow their business. And our small business success story this week from Trapp Insurance Group is Trent Menius. Trent, good to have you here today. How are you?
Mike.
So, Trent is part of a core group, which is basically a group that is starting. They start with weekly meetings to invite members to join their group, and when you get to, I think is it 11 or 15, you can go as a full fledged chapter. Trent.
It's 10 or 11.
Yeah. Okay. And so Trent is part of that group. They are growing. So the weekly meetings are at 8:30 on Wednesday. So if you're interested in BNI, we can get you that link to join their group. But they are quickly growing and hoping to be a full fledged chapter here shortly. Trent is also with Trapp Insurance Group, handles life insurance. And Trent, that covers a lot of things, doesn't it?
It really does. Has a lot of uses. I would never try to pass it off as a retirement product or anything like that, but it runs parallel to a lot of major life decisions and a lot of future planning.
And one of the things we like to do is to educate folks just on things to think about when they're looking at it. And I knew that life insurance could be used to protect a loan as collateral, but I did not know it could be part of a mortgage. But I guess it's the same thing, right?
Well, yeah, when you approach a situation like a mortgage from a life insurance standpoint, you could do it from a credit lines perspective, where you sell a policy that pays the mortgagee if the insured should die. That way, if you die while you've got a $500,000 loan out, um, it pays back all that money that you owe in the event of your death. But it just does that. If you look at it from a client centric perspective, sometimes the best way to do that is a term life policy because unlike a credit lines life insurance policy, a term life policy has some perks and caveats and other additional features that could at least let the insured walk away with something to show for it, as opposed to just protecting the creditors or the bank's best interest.
I was not aware. Again, one of the neat things about BNI, it has taught me to shop local. So you get to meet, the goal is to have the cell phone number of your banker, your chiropractor, and all your insurance people. So that's what I love about BNI. But as I've gotten into BNI over the years and met people, I I guess we all thought initially life insurance was just for when you die, but it's not really the case. There's living insurance and all kinds of opportunities like that for people to look at.
Yeah, that's correct. There's even an investment aspect of it where it sort of blurs the line between an insurance product and a security. It's called variable life insurance, and basically you decide how the dividend from your premium is invested, um, and you can put it in separate accounts. And basically, the cash value of this product will grow, or in some cases, shrink based on the performance of your investment.
It's term. You talked earlier about term and whole life insurance, correct?
Correct. Although I've only seen variable products in whole life because unlike term, whole life has a cash value because it's essentially self funding. The way they set it up is that it's designed to fund itself through your premium payments by the time that you reach age 121, at which point you will either be dead or the policy will pay out directly to you. I'm sure you know which one is more likely.
Yes. Excuse me. And that's what I was gonna ask you about, just the layman's term differences between term and whole life.
Well, basically, term is a temporary product and whole is permanent. If I had a first time home buyer who's got a 30-year mortgage, and they want to get a 30-year term policy to protect it, let's say their house is valued at $300,000. We would couple that with a $300,000 term policy for 30 years. And so basically, you are covered within that window of 30 years. And if you die anytime from the first day to the 30th year, then it will pay out. Although, with a plain old term policy, after the first day of the 31st year, that policy will either skyrocket in premium substantially to where it's not viable to pay it anymore, or it'll just terminate and disappear. Whereas if you had a whole life policy that you paid into for 30 years, at the end of 30 years, you would have 30 years worth of premium payments, dividends worth of cash value, which you could then borrow from. But of course, you could spiral down a long path of all the things you could do with whole life cash value.
Can whole life be used as collateral like term can?
Um, I won't pretend to know the answer to that just because I've been in insurance for about 4 years, but this is my first year selling life insurance.
All right.
Um, so when it comes to more technical questions like that, I may have to defer to a better expert.
Okay, not a problem. And a couple members of your team are friends of the show, Mary and Carlos, both been on the show before. So you're working with a good group of folks, as has Chip. So what got you into this? Because we're going to talk about your career as a chef here in a little bit. So how do you go from being a chef to the insurance world?
Well, you wake up one day and you realize that your back hurts too much to be this young, and your bank account's a little too empty to be working that hard. Because, long story short, I think I worked about 10 years in restaurants, and it was just grueling, uh, just very laborious. It was as gratifying as it was laborious, but laborious nonetheless.
How old are you?
I'm 26,
Oh,
so I've been working since I was probably a little too young to be working. But in a rural state like North Carolina, there's always a backwoods place that's willing to let you peel potatoes and wash dishes for cash under the table until you get a driver's license and are actually legally authorized to work.
and we have had that story on the show before too. So, you're a little bit young for your body to be breaking down, though, right?
Yeah, but it goes back to those long restaurant hours, being on your feet, and also the physiological implications of being stressed to the max. I mean, like fight or flight mode stressed for 8 to 10 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week.
And you found that to be a turnoff at some point in time, right?
I did, and I love cooking more than most anybody else I've ever met. But as it pertains to doing it for a living, the restaurant worker lifestyle is uh, underratedly brutal.
Yes, and we've heard that story too. And one of the cool things that you guys do at Trapp that again I wasn't aware of till for till the last few years. The it's always hard to recruit the right people, and to do that, you want to make sure there are enough perks on the table for them, and you can use insurance as a way to sign that 5-star recruit you want coming to your company, can't you?
Definitely, definitely. In the small town I grew up in, which was Lexington, North Carolina, uh, it was really easy to see a stark line that separated jobs from careers, and that was usually always not necessarily at the point of payroll, but at the point of benefits. Um, because when you are a small business in a small area with a small economy, um, finding good benefits that attract people from out of town is almost a pipe dream.
What are some of the things you've seen your clients use recently? Not to get in any names of clients or anything, but types of perks that they put onto the top of an offer to get the key people they wanted.
Well, it's been interesting seeing that dynamic shift as everybody now, or at least everybody in the office world, now immediately has the perk of working from home. Not that that's ever really been used as a retainer, but it is kind of icing on any job's cake. But as it pertains to actual stone cold benefits, something that's been on the rise is what they call a voluntary life insurance product. So basically, the employer offers a group life insurance product to all of their employees, um, and it's usually a low cost term product that is what they call portable, so that if the employee ever leaves the company, they can still pay the premium and keep their life insurance. That way, your whole life insurance isn't wrapped up at this company that you are not sure you want to retire from. Um, and so it gives the employer the chance to write off premium payments for any employee that opts in, and in return gives the employees a portable term product at little cost to them.
And if those future employees if they've got 2 or 3 job offers and they're stacking them up against each other, that could be a big difference, couldn't it?
It could, because I mean, not to get gloom and doom, but when you compare a job offer with life insurance to a job offer without life insurance, any life insurance trumps no life insurance, especially if it's something you can take with you. I don't see a ton of whole life and group benefits, but it's out there. And Lord knows if you get a whole life policy through your first job and work that through to retirement, the cash value of whole life snowballs. And before you know it, you've got a 5-figure product in your, not necessarily in your portfolio, but in your assets that can benefit you 30, 40 years down the line.
We are here with Trent Menius of Trapp Insurance Group. Trent is in a core group right now that's meeting on Wednesday mornings. If you'd like to know more about joining a core group, you can go to trianglebni.com. There's information there. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. One of the things you need, folks, is a good email list and what to do with it. Facebook owns your Facebook group. I don't know if you knew that. Google could shut you down on YouTube. And how would you get in touch with all your current and future clients? You own the email list. So one of the things you can do is put together a nice email campaign, things like that. Folks at Oak City Tech can help you with. Go to oakcitytech.com. Tell Drago that we said hi. All right, Trent, I always find you know what? I don't even care when I do this, a reason to bring up my grandson, Oliver. So he'll be 3 in July. What are things grandparents can look to do for grandkids? Type of policies can we look to do for them? Anything like that?
Well, I think that getting a child under the age of 15 a life insurance policy is an extremely wise thing, just because these products, when you compare the same amount of premium uh, that it would take to insure a 2-year-old for $20,000. You take $20,000 worth of insurance premium and price that for someone that's 24, and you find that getting that coverage for a 4-year-old is pennies on the dollar compared to getting it for a 24-year-old. So again, it goes back to what I said about the job. If you can get your grandchild a even just a low premium, 15,000, $20,000 whole life product when they are, under the age of 15, it can truly be a blessing to them and keep them from having to worry about what type of insurance premium they're going to pay for life insurance, or factoring that into their future plans. It can really be a blessing to them for less than you pay for a streaming service.
And he belongs to my oldest son, and my oldest son and I have gone back and forth. We've got a little bit something set up for him, but we're probably gonna do some other things. And I told my son that I'm not investing knucklehead money. This is not when he gets to be 18, he can cash it in or anything like that. Want to put it together, put it for good use like that, or paying off college debt, college loans when he gets out, down payment on a house, things like that. So I'm still looking for different types of things to do, but there will be no knucklehead money spent on my watch.
Right. And as it pertains to children and life insurance, I have an interesting tidbit to throw out there, and that's if you have a life insurance policy on you, you know, you're the insured, you own it, but your beneficiary is, say, your grandson. Um, if you make him your beneficiary, but do not designate a trust for that money to be paid into, it will actually be paid out to his living next of kin or guardians in this case. And I'm sure you have a great relationship with your grandson's parents, but if you didn't, that might be an obstacle to getting to making sure that those life insurance benefits get used in the way that you intend. So my caution is to, if you have a minor as your beneficiary for your life insurance policy, set them up a trust, because a life insurance company will not pay the death benefit to a minor, but they will pay it to a trust.
And then you have to get somebody that you trust to run the trust, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of insurance agents that sell Legal Shield. I am one of them.
Mhm.
And in that situation, I would use my Legal Shield member benefits to have an attorney help me set up a trust for that minor.
Good to know. And right now I do have a good relationship with his parents, so but it's day to day. I say things to people, so it just happens. So, anyways, I want to talk to speak good segue because not only does my grandson love to eat all day long, he grazes, he eats well, he grazes all day long, but they're bigger meals than probably most people do, and he runs it off. It's very impressive. I can't keep up with him. What was the first cooking job you had?
Oh man, my very first cooking job I ever had
And don't
was
get yourself in trouble if you can't mention the name of the place. I don't want you to get yourself in any trouble.
oh no, I was legitimately on the payroll by this time. I washed dishes for until I came of age, just as every burgeoning young chef does. You know, because if you're a young man, you walk into a restaurant with no experience, the one thing you can do to prove yourself is wash dishes. So I'd wash dishes and prove myself, and the cook above me was in the process of getting fired. So they discreetly trained me to, you know, flip the burgers and drop stuff in the fryer and just do the simple cooking things um, until they elbowed him out of there. But it was at a local barbecue restaurant that I lived walking distance from. It was called Stamey's Barbecue. It's still there. I've worked there for quite some time throughout my young adulthood.
When did you know you wanted to go deeper into this industry?
It was actually several years into cooking, maybe 3 or 4. I had left Stamey's and got a job managing a sports bar, or at least managing the kitchen portion of it. And it was the first time that little 19-year-old me had really had anything that felt like leadership. And not only did I realize that I love trying to be a compassionate and thoughtful leader, but also love the art of presenting something that looks as good as it tastes, and vice versa.
If I had to pick one, I'm the customer. Do I want it to look better than it tastes or taste better than it looks?
You want it to look better than it tastes because it's a psychological thing, especially if you're not an avid foodie or any sort of culinarian, if it looks good, um, you are more likely to find value in that food experience, even if it doesn't taste as good as it looks.
Interesting. I would have thought the other way, but I get your point though. Because if it's a particular type of fish, which I don't eat a lot of fish, I probably wouldn't know if it was spot on right or close enough, but it looks so good, right?
Exactly, and you find that in a lot of budget places. Is that it may come from a can and be frozen, but if they arrange it in a nice square on a plate or crisp it up real good on the edges and make your mouth water when you look at it, it's part of the experience. And in an arm's length way is part of the value.
Now you can't really do that with steak and burgers because most of us know immediately when we bite into it that it's not good.
Yeah, definitely. That's a product that essentially sells itself.
Have you developed a go-to dish?
It depends on the occasion. Although being a Southerner, my one of my go-tos is the old steak and taters. You you get any steak. I'm a fan of a fattier cut like a ribeye or a New York strip with that big ribbon of fat down the side. Um, you salt and pepper it, sear it in a hot pan, finish it in the oven until it's your desired temperature. Um, and for the potatoes, I just get those little fingerling potatoes, cut them in half, uh, and boil them to sort of par cook them, and then finish them off in a real hot oven so they get crispy around the edges. It's an American classic.
Oh yeah, can't go wrong with that. Is there a dish that's just a royal pain in the butt to cook?
Man, I tried to make a beef Wellington one time, and that is just the intricacies and the technique. It's one of those dishes that you cook for 5 or 6 years and you think, yeah, I got this. I'm ready to try more intermediate, advanced things, and then as soon as you try it, it falls into shambles, and you realize where you stand in the grand scheme of things, and you're not quite this hot shot you thought you were.
All right, we have a holiday weekend coming up. Um, the 30th would be my birthday, so if anybody sweet tea and chocolate chip cookies, you can just drop them off on the doorstep. I'll take them all. Let's talk about some things easy things people can put together either on the grill inside or outside. They may have some people over. What are some easy, effective, popular things to put out for folks coming over?
Oh, if I have people coming over, I'm making what my fiance and I like to call guac and talk. I'm making guacamole and tacos. And it doesn't get much simpler than that because guacamole is just avocados, maybe some onion and tomato if you're into that kind of thing, lime juice, cilantro, garlic, salt, and pepper.
Yep.
Mash it all up in a bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Pretend like you're a master.
I grew up here, and my first job out of college was in Austin, Texas. I'd never been to Austin, so this was '83, nor had I eaten anything Tex-Mex, and I learned later that Taco Bell did not qualify as that, although a big fan of Taco Bell. And guacamole properly made, oh, man, and my father-in-law is Texas-born, Texas chef at home, and a good cook, and my wife learned from him, and man, good guacamole, stout.
You're a lucky man, Mike.
Yep. I've venison, oh my god. My father-in-law's I call him a dual threat. He can cook and bake, so the mesquite grill he uses outside to cook the main dish is as good or better maybe than the dessert he made for you, but both are wonderful, and you feel miserable going to bed, but you just want another slice of something before you go to bed.
Yeah, and it's I think we all have someone in our orbit, if not in our family, that makes those meals that just compel you to hurt yourself, punish
Yeah.
yourself with them.
Yeah, it's the best, it's the best. Let's talk breakfast. So if you got some house guests coming for a long weekend, what's an easy-ish breakfast to make?
Well, if you're trying to stray from the traditional eggs and bacon and biscuits, um, I lean Tex-Mex on a lot of things, and so I will get a pound of raw ground sausage and dump maybe half a pack of taco seasoning in it, and then make some eggs and maybe some gravy if you're into that kind of thing, and sear up some corn or flour tortillas, depending on your preference, in a pan, and boom, you've got breakfast tacos.
Yep.
Now, you couldn't exactly call the sausage chorizo, but it gets the job done. It makes a breakfast taco that nobody's going to question.
That's another thing I learned to eat. Well, first time I ever heard of it was moving to Texas. I had no idea what chorizo was, but man, oh man, on a Sunday morning, good stuff. What
Definitely, definitely.
what do you when it's just you, what do you make for just you?
Oh man, I would probably get myself some asparagus and a nice piece of fish, swordfish maybe, because that's a good high quality fish that usually doesn't break the bank like a yellowtail would. But yeah, I would get a nice piece of swordfish and some asparagus and sear them both in a pan, not the same pan. Um, just salt and pepper and olive oil. Those are the magic three things that really work on just about anything. Um, and I would maybe squeeze some lemon over it
Now
and have it.
when you
Sorry,
say
what?
sear, how long does that take?
Well, it just depends because the object of the searing, a lot of people have their wives' tales about what searing does, like it locks in the flavor, locks in the juices. And it's false. What searing does is it promotes chemical reactions that cause flavor just from contact with the hot pan. It's going to cause caramelization of any natural sugars, and it's going to cause a Maillard reaction, which is anytime you stick something over something hot and it turns brown. And both of those create salty and sweet, savory flavors that add to whatever it is on, which is why pan seared steak, in my opinion, is much better than grilled steak because every bit of that surface area that is touching something hot gets the benefit from those chemical reactions.
But you're a fan of searing.
I am also a fan of air frying. I turned my nose up at the air fryer for a few years, but honestly, being the little miniature convection oven that it is, an air fryer is the best way to cook uh, anything really fatty like chicken wings or chicken thighs, and it's great for vegetables like mushrooms.
We are here with Trent Menius of Trapp Insurance Group. He handles life insurance and legal shield. So if you know anything, we've been putting Trent's number on the screen here. You can give him a call, take good care of you. I know he will. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Social media, folks. It's a great idea for 2 days. And on the third day, you're like, oh, God, I got to post again. It is hard to do. It's hard to be consistent with the right message. So look for professionals like Oak City Tech to do that. You can go to oakcitytech.com, let them know what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Trent, are you a food snob?
Uh, I I will be, but silently. If I go to someone else's house and they're cooking and they're not necessarily an avid culinary science buff or experienced restaurateur, I won't say anything and I will eat it with a smile on my face. But I'll be thinking of 100 different ways I could have done it better.
Is there something you won't eat?
I so I get a lot of teasing from my fiance about this, but I don't eat just straight up mayonnaise or sour cream. I'm not big on like white sauces that aren't sweet. So I don't really do tartar sauce or tzatziki. I don't do mayonnaise, um, and I catch a lot of flack for it.
Mm. Wasn't the answer I was expecting to come out of your mouth, but I'm with you on a lot of that. I'm with you on that. I'm not a yeah, yeah. Um, there are a ton of chefs on TV, and many of them are divas. Are you closely aligned with any of them? Are you more like one but not another? Who would we
Well,
stick you next to?
this harkens back to when I sort of learned to be a compassionate leader in the restaurant. Because I really don't believe in the very toxic and obscene Gordon Ramsay style of management and leadership. Granted, that is sort of a picture of what Gordon Ramsay grew up with. And in Europe, chefs will verbally and physically abuse you to hammer into you this insistence on perfection. But I say all that to say that I am a diplomat before I would holler or throw things, and I think that the sign of a good leader is one that can remain calm under that type of pressure and emotion.
Is the format of what we see on his show where the chef gets the order and turns to the cooks in the kitchen and tells 2 beef Wellingtons, 3 of these, 1 of these. Is that how things kinda work?
So in some of the highest level kitchens, yes, although more often than not, especially in a contemporary or chain kitchen, you're going to see it broken down by the station. And each station is going to have a little receipt printer that makes a very shrill noise when it's printing out a receipt so that you know to stop what you're doing and get this order that's coming out. And that's going to print off the items that just that station needs to make. And then there's a man at the big table where they put all the finished food, and he does what's called expo, or you expedite the food out, and he puts it all on the trays for the tables that it goes, and would holler at this station, be like, "Hey, how long on that asparagus or whatever?" Um, so not necessarily. There are probably a lot of old school kitchens that still do it like you see on Hell's Kitchen, but compartmentalizing it is the way to make the most money off of it, and that's usually what it's about.
Would you rather have Gordon Ramsay's job or Guy Fieri's job?
Uh, I feel like Gordon Ramsay probably makes more money.
But you don't wanna drive around all these restaurants and just meet the folks and talk about what they make and then leave?
Nah, that's too much excitement and variety. If it's going to be my day job, I want it to be something at least mildly predictable, and you know something I know what to expect when I walk in every day.
Did your fiancée know what she was getting into?
I don't think she did, because there's not many people out there that want to cook 7 days a week. And I promise, given the chance and the supplies, I would cook 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, just because I love doing it.
Wow. Do you see yourself in having an opportunity to monetize that world, or is that gone for you?
Uh, in the world of the online internet celebrity chef, I entertain the ideas of it, but really, I find that mixing business with pleasure like that sort of takes the takes the fun out of it. I cook 3 days or 3 meals a day, 7 days a week now. But when I worked in the restaurant, I didn't do that, because if I came home from 10 hours of cooking, what I would never want to cook anymore.
It's like the traveling salesman coming home and then the spouse says, "Hey, we're going away for the weekend." They're like, "No, we're not."
Yeah, exactly. And I would always get asked to, I still get asked to help with the cooking and catering of small family events. So it doing it for a living would just burn me out again.
Do you Oh, dang, man, I already forgot my question, what I was gonna ask you. Oh, well, that happens. Do you cook you cook 3 meals a day every day? Do you plan these out? And did your fiance let's start with that one first. Do you plan these out or just whatever you feel like?
So usually early in the week, I will go to the grocery store and I will see what's on sale, and I will let that sort of guide my cooking for the week. And I'll go grab Brussels sprouts and some potatoes, and maybe I'll grab a piece of fish that's on sale or a whole chicken, and probably plan it in my head about 4 or 5 days out, and then just freestyle based off of whatever we have for sides and breakfast.
Did you meet your fiance when you were in the restaurant industry?
I did. Let's see. I had graduated high school a little bit. She was still in high school. We went to the same high school. I think we were 2 grades apart. Um, but yeah, I met her while I was in the restaurant industry, and we've been together about 7 years now. And I was in the restaurant industry for a little bit of that, so she learned to deal with the ups and downs.
Bet she's glad you're out of there, huh?
She is working in a restaurant. It culturally, a restaurant can be really toxic, especially if you're a man. And in a culture that glorifies being toxic and being aggressive and blunt, I started carrying those things home with me inadvertently. So I'm glad that I don't have to be that version of myself anymore.
Yeah, that is a hard life for people that have never been in it. That is one tough way to make a living.
It really is. I mean, when you look at it from arm's length, you say, "Oh, you go in and flip some burgers." It's not like digging ditches all day. But um, again, that goes back to what I said about the stress level of it, because there's a time aspect to everything you do in the restaurant, and there's always a demand for customers, and so anything that happens amidst that is just multiplied in terms of the amount of stress. And that's what makes it truly exhausting. I mean, I would get home from a long Friday night shift, and I would sit down and just pant and maybe rub my face a whole lot and just stare at the wall for like 30 minutes before I finally came back to reality.
I've heard stories about that. You are also helping slash working with a friend of ours, Micah, with Micah's Sweets and Treats. Understand? Were you at the farmers market with her last weekend?
I was. It was a good time. They had a moderate turnout, and the weather seemed to be nice. There was live music, so um, yeah. And I have enjoyed watching Micah's business grow as she sort of works on defining what she wants it to be.
And she's also a friend of the show's, but she was on early on. She's that was right as she was starting Micah's Sweets and Treats, which are very good, by the way. Highly recommend that. Got some, you can buy she's got a box you buy with already made cookies, but all the stuff to decorate it with. So we did that with Oliver, my grandson. He just loved that. I mean, he got stuff everywhere. That's actually a fun way to spend an afternoon with young kids.
Yeah, and she's a big hit with birthday parties. I mean, you
Oh,
bring 2 or 3 of those to a birthday party, you've got the kids entertained for 2 hours.
do you bake? Do you make sweets and desserts as well as you make entrees?
So you mentioned that your father-in-law was a double threat, right?
Oh, yeah.
I am not. I have been trying really hard. I made a cake this weekend and made the icing too runny. I It's like starting all over. It, inside the industry, we always say that cooking is art, but baking is science, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you have to be a whole nother brand of chef to be able to keep up with those guys.
He always makes test pies. Just, he's one of those that he doesn't have the recipe. It's to taste, and I think a little bit more, he's that type. But they're all of his pies are so good. When our oldest son, Travis was about 3. My grandfather, it was a pound cake. There was no other way to explain it. It was just a pound cake. And Travis thought that his grandfather made it for him. So he said, "Grandfather, can you make me another Travis cake?" So it's been known for Travis is what, 30, was he 35 now? And it's been known for almost for 30 years, Travis cake, until they were in San Antonio this past week with Oliver. And Oliver said, basically, no, this is not an Oliver cake now. But it's the same thing, it's just a pound cake, right? Put some strawberries or some ice cream with it in a bowl, and everybody's happy. But it was originally a Travis cake, but now it's an Oliver cake.
Time for Travis to pass the torch.
Well, as a parent, man, especially as a dad, you get left behind quick for a number of reasons. But anyways, Trent, love having you on the show. Good luck with the insurance. I'm glad you shared some cooking tips with us with a long holiday weekend coming up, all kinds of different things. Do you have a something different to put on the grill, maybe outside?
um, no, but I will give you a different approach to it. So everybody grills chicken, and I'm sure you could think of a few times that you've had chicken grilled outdoors that was kind of dry.
Mm.
Um, my advice is to treat the grill more like an oven. Get a bone-in piece of chicken because there's a lot of collagen and other things that dissolve into moist, delicious juices in the bones. My favorite piece is a thigh. Get some chicken thighs, put them all on the right half of the grill, but turn the left half on and shut the lid so that you have essentially turned your grill into an outdoor oven. And let them bake until they get to be about 140, 150 degrees, and then slide them over the fire and turn it all the way up and put that crispy, delicious char on it, that caramelization in my art, and you will have some of the best grilled chicken you have ever put on a plate.
I like that. All right. There's our tip, folks. That's how you cook chicken for the weekend. I think we're supposed to have good weather. I don't know, but anyways, it will be good stuff. So thank you for all the tips on the insurance and the cooking. And do you have any plans for cooking this weekend?
I'm actually going on a fishing trip this weekend, so I hope to catch something worth eating.
There you go. And we will catch up on those stories later. Trent, it's been great having you on the show. We thank you for coming out today. And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's been an honor to be here.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.